Nuclear disaster narrowly avoided at Zaporizhzhia, with plans of evacuations throughout eastern Ukraine.
Preparations for the new school year are underway in the Donetsk region, with a new Russian-approved curriculum in place.
NATO Security General has called for an increase in the alliance's presence and investment in the Arctic, as Russia reopens hundreds of military sites in the region.
Hungary gives the green light to start the construction of 2 new nuclear reactors by Rosatom, Russia's state nuclear agency.
Iodine tablets have reportedly been supplied to residents near the Zaporizhzhia power plant, amid very real fears that fighting around the complex could lead to a nuclear catastrophe. The precautionary measure follows a temporary disconnect to Europe's largest power plant from Ukraine's national grid on Thursday. Kyiv says it has now partly reconnected the plant to the national system. President Volodymyr Zelensky underlined that the situation remains very risky and dangerous. Any further disconnections of the plant from the grid or actions by Russia that could trigger the shutdown of the reactors will again put the plant one step away from disaster. Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk has announced plans to expand mandatory evacuations for civilians living on the war's front lines. Speaking on national television, Vereshchuk said evacuating women with children and elderly people would be a priority for some districts of the eastern Kharkiv region and the southern Zaporizhzhia and Mykolaiv regions. Elsewhere, Ukrainian forces have struck an important bridge by Russian occupying forces in the southern Kherson region, serving a blow to Moscow's offensive. In the suburban town of Bucha outside of Kyiv, scars of war are everywhere you look. For Belarusians living in Ukraine, aftermath of war brings a unique feeling of horror, caught between the crossfires in a war they didn't ask for. Political refugee Karina Podsyomkina arrived in Ukraine just 2 weeks before Russia's invasion. She says, "We know there are Belarusians who are fighting on the side of Ukraine. There are volunteers who have nowhere to go because they are Belarusians. When I see my blue Belarusian passport, I want to burn it. Belarusians are people without a country. Nobody needs them." It turns out that you are asking for protection from the country which is at war. It turns out you are safer in the country that is at war rather than in Belarus. For Russians in Ukraine, the feelings are similar, with many voicing support for their host country. Andrei Sidorkin, who has lived in Ukraine for 17 years, returning to his homeland is no option. He says returning to Russia is out of the question. There I will most likely get 15 to 20 years in prison. I'm not sure about that, but the probability is very high given the scale of repression there now. Sidorkin was not accepted to the Ukrainian army, but did make Molotov cocktails and help evacuate artwork from museums in Kyiv.
Schools and teachers in the Russian-controlled Donetsk region are preparing for the new school year under a Russian curriculum and with Russian textbooks. The Prime Minister of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, Vitaly Kotsenko, assures all grades will be supplied with the mandatory materials.
We will fully supply our schools of the Donetsk People's Republic, all grades from 1st to 11th. We have history, Russian literature, geography. We hope that the children will study proper literature and acquire proper knowledge.
Larisa Volodyuk is a librarian at a school in Mariupol. Going through the books she has received, she highlights that there is not a single Ukrainian book left in the school or storage. She also believes that the Russian books are much better. She says that the materials they have received are brand new editions from 2022 and that the literature list has been completely renewed. In Mariupol, many schools have been severely damaged by shelling. While reconstruction is in full swing, many will not be ready for the new school year. Another urgent problem is the lack of teachers. However, the authorities of the self-proclaimed Republic of Donetsk claim that there are many volunteers willing to come from Russia.
NATO Security General Jens Stoltenberg called for an increase in the alliance's security in the Arctic, as Russia is growing its military presence in the region by reopening military sites. And he warned that the shortest path for Moscow's missiles to reach North America would be through the North Pole.
Russia has set up a new Arctic command. It has opened hundreds of new and former Soviet-era Arctic military sites, including airfields and deep-water ports. Russia is also using the region as a testbed for many of its new novel weapon systems.
Stoltenberg also noted that after Finland and Sweden joins the group, 7 of the 8 Arctic countries will be NATO members, excluding only Russia. Canada had previously been cautious about NATO's presence in the Arctic region, but its prime minister claims that the war in Ukraine has changed the situation.
It is important that we all recognize the shifting geopolitical realities that the world is now facing, and across the NATO alliance, countries are investing more in ability to secure NATO territory, including across the Arctic.
Stoltenberg also expressed concerns about Beijing's growing interest in the Arctic as it plans to build the world's largest icebreaker fleet.
Russian state-owned company Rosatom is set to begin the construction of 2 new nuclear reactors at the Hungarian Pax power plant. The expansion plan stems from a 2014 deal between the two countries, which will see the plant's nuclear capacity more than double. The expansion project is set to be carried out with a Russian loan and will cost some 12.5 billion euros. The Hungarian foreign minister celebrated the beginning of the works.
It is now clearer than ever that the countries that have nuclear energy and nuclear power plants can feel more secure in terms of their energy supply. The greater the nuclear energy capacity of a country, the safer it will be in the future.
While the EU bloc has sanctioned Russia economically for its war in Ukraine and is moving away from Russian gas and oil, current restrictions do not include the Russian nuclear industry. Hungary has not unconditionally supported the European decisions and aims to secure the country's future energy supplies with this expansion in light of the current energy crisis.
The clear favourite to become Britain's next Prime Minister asked a quick-fire question about the French president.
President Macron, friend or foe?
The jury's out, but if I...
Loudly applauded by Conservative Party members.
If I become Prime Minister, I'll judge him on deeds, not words.
But what does this really say? Are Britain and France once again foes? Here in the Conservative Party's heartland, the home counties in southern England, the vast majority of Conservatives voted for Brexit. And in a town like Royal Tunbridge Wells, many see France as the villain in their post-Brexit reality.
I think the French do what the French want to do.
And you think Liz Truss is right to say that the French, Emmanuel Macron's not a friend?
Yes, I think perhaps, yes, is right, yeah.
She's probably right, because reading the press over the last few months and years, I can't see he's really a good friend, especially over Brexit. He had a real go at us.
He has to do the best for his country, and we have to do the best for ours. Simple as that.
Is it right for the potential future Prime Minister to say that, though?
I don't see why not. She has an opinion.
Liz Truss was undoubtedly playing to the gallery of Conservative Party members. But is this rhetoric likely to cause further damage between the UK, the EU and France?
It's not a very wise statement, I think, to say of your nearest neighbours that you're not actually sure whether they're run by a friend or a foe. We all know it isn't really meant, and I think that makes it even harder. There's a certain sense of British jokiness underneath it as well, and it makes it really hard to unravel that and the politics and the international relations, and it feels like we're even more stuck because of that.
Many Europeans will have been wondering whether the next Prime Minister would take a different approach to Europe. While the jury is still out, Liz Truss has already begun, nailing her colours to the mast. Luke Hanrahan, Euronews, London.